We're good.
All right. Once again, it's 6:14. We're all going to open the meeting. I want to remind everybody, but that this meeting is being recorded. Also, if there were any votes to be taken, they would be. It's a remote meeting, so there would be a roll call. At this point in time, I'd like to do a roll call attendance. Jack Hunter,
I'm here.
Lonnie
Staff.
Tenio,
Anyhow, here.
Gabe Trevor. Well, we don't have to do Gabe actually.
Yep.
Matt Clark.
Here.
And Brendan Chanel.
Here.
I think that's it. And Bill Ambrosino. I'm obviously here. So let's get this meeting going.
All right. So because we don't have quorum, we're going to skip approval of meeting minutes, though Matthew thankfully put together, is it minutes for December 3rd?
Yeah, the other one's still pending.
Okay. So we can get to that at the next meeting. So the main focus today is we're going to continue our review of Section 3. We will be focusing today on the use table. I think we'll go until 7 p.m. or if people want to go after that, that works too. Jane, Dylan, and I, and Jack and I went through the use table a bit as well on Thursday. Looked at Brendan had a lot of really helpful comments, so we looked at some of those. Let me just get this pulled up. All right, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. So, Brendan had a comment that I think is a helpful comment. So this is the version of we're working off the version of the bylaws that Ellen provided. So there was kind of a question of whether or not these were out of date or something like that. But I guess Brendan thinks that we should be leveraging the age restricted mixed use district to promote more mixed use in the town. Brendan, do you want to speak on that at all?
Sure. Yeah. So I noticed that this version of the bylaws was before the adoption of the RMUD, which is in the current version that's on the website. And my comment there is that that is what we have right now for mixed use, and it serves, in my opinion, as a good basis point for jumping off for creating either additional mixed use or for expanding mixed use. So that's where I was going with that.
Like within the confines of the ARMUD, or just kind of, well, we have this in that bylaw, we should expand it to non-age restricted mixed use.
Well, if we wanted, so I guess that's up for debate in this forum. But if we wanted to expand into non-age restricted mixed use, it still is a pretty good starting point for that, I would think.
Yeah, and I think that's something we need to take a good long look at. I think the mixed use is something. I mean, Mendon's always been resistant. Most towns have mixed use areas. We have to look at whether we want to make those in the entire commercial districts, or that we only have two. So, or whether we want to identify areas.
Yeah, and that actually is another comment that I had, and maybe at a different point. But I much prefer, me personally, much prefer targeting specific parcels with an overlay district versus opening it up the floodgates everywhere.
Yeah. The only concern with overlay district construction is you want to make sure you're not going into spot zoning.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. That becomes a legal nightmare for the board, actually.
So yeah, I think for this committee, it would be helpful to think it more in, I guess, like the neighborhood scale. Like what are neighborhoods or parts of town that you'd want to see with mixed use, rather than, you can kind of have specific parcels in mind. But
it's typical to spot zone them though. It's
Yeah.
what ends up happening is the ones that aren't get challenged, and then it makes it difficult for the board.
Mhm.
So it,
Jack?
Yeah, I am not of the opinion that overlay districts constitute spot zoning. There's been no challenges I know of to that. And in fact, that's why you do an overlay district. Now,
Right.
whether you want to do a neighborhood or specific parcels, that's a policy issue between you guys, but
yeah, neighborhood's a lot more supportive. I have seen legal action on one spot, picking particular spots for any type of zoning.
well,
If
yeah, permanent zoning. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
like if we said we're going to allow mixed use on 140, that there'd be a neighborhood district, and I don't think there'd be any valid challenge to that.
Yeah.
So,
All right, but yeah, something that we should keep in mind. Similarly, Brendan had the comment, and I think today again we're gonna try to stay away from the village mixed use conversation or village zoning conversation. Sorry, Grafton has a village mixed use district, so that was in my head. Just village zoning generally. But yeah, looking at multifamily maybe in a village center district, but probably not looking at other districts for that.
currently we do have duplexes
Duplexes, yeah.
in the zoning.
Yep.
Yeah. So we do have duplexes it's the same as single family dwellings.
Correct.
Yeah.
Bill, surprisingly, since I've been here, I haven't seen anybody propose any.
No, there was it actually went into the zoning, I think, in the late 70s, early 80s.
Oh my gosh.
And it was specific to a development that was being done at that time. We have had some proposed duplexes. As a matter of fact, was it 47 Hartford Avenue was a subdivision that had some duplexes in it.
Yeah.
So it comes up occasionally. It's not really a big deal in Mendon.
Yeah.
I mean, that, like I said, that's been on the books for forever and a day. So, I don't think at this point in time that we need to worry about duplexes. Now, if anyone wanted to go further than that, then we'd have to obviously make adjustments to the
Bylaw.
bylaw. Thank you. My brain's stuck.
Yeah. Happens to me.
Me too.
So moving on, Brendan had another comment. Clarify such accessory uses that are allowed but not explicitly stated in this use table, i.e. those that would be considered as agro-tourism. So Brendan, do you want to touch on this a little bit?
I can talk about exactly why we would want to do this because for instance, right now there's some actions in front of the town or some decisions in front of the select board about whether or not to allow expanded use of a farm, and there's lawyers on both sides, and basically what's being argued is, hey, even though your right to farm bylaw says that you can do this and it's an exempt use, it's not in the use table. So it's being argued both ways, and I just see this as an opportunity to make it less ambiguous.
Yeah. What uses are they going for? Like I understand like the umbrella of agro-tourism, but
yeah, so this is specifically for a local farm that has essentially a pouring permit, and they're looking to expand the type of pouring permit that they have, and it's being argued that it's not specifically allowed here, even though it is allowed in our right to farm bylaw and the mass exemptions. So that's just a comment.
No, I'm just, yeah, thank you. So in your right to farm bylaw, it specifically talks about pouring.
It talks about, it's basically, yeah, I don't want to get into it too much about exactly which business it is, but it
It's
talks
okay.
about that this sort of industry and that it's allowed, but
Okay.
it's not in the zoning bylaw. So the
Hmm,
surrounding neighbors are saying, hey, it's not allowed because of this.
gotcha.
Yeah,
but
but
town
Brendan,
council's like,
I'm
it is
gonna,
allowed as as you know.
Yeah, the right to farm bylaw, it should, I mean, I'm not sure what the lawyers are saying. I mean, I don't have governance over the right to farm bylaw. That's a general bylaw. But I'm not sure, but I'll tell you, the state stands up for the right to farm bylaw. I mean,
But yeah, and I'm not saying that we wouldn't. What I would say is we're try to harmonize the table with
Oh,
what we're allowing.
yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that. We,
And I
that's all.
think we discussed this a little bit on Thursday, and I think the way I see it is that like agro-tourism isn't really a useful zone. It's more of like it's like a marketing term. And I think from a zoning perspective, I don't know how useful it is because
Mhm.
the use is the use. If it's food, if it's a bar or whatever, a brewery, whatever. If it's a petting zoo, that's some sort of that, then you're looking at, well, zoo or like outdoor recreation or something. So, yeah, but I
Yeah.
think broadly that's like a good, it's good. Like we should think about if there are accessory uses we need to further define. For
Chapter
sure.
Right.
48, Section 3 is extremely strong. And whoever's complaining that there isn't a specific use in our chart, that has no bearing on it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Extremely
I'd
strong.
I'd be seriously surprised if they if and I'm not sure what council's telling you guys, Brendan, but I'd be seriously surprised if the the uh the
Well, we
plaintiff the gain any ground on this. I mean,
yeah, and that's honestly that's our understanding as well, and we're allowing the use expansion on
Okay.
council. So
Yeah.
this is not me saying that we should restrict. This is me just
Yeah.
saying like,
No, we
you know,
need clarity. And
yeah.
if this comes up again, you want to be able to point to something.
yeah, I mean, we certainly could add something.
The neighbors are grasping at straws because they just feel like they're not getting listened to.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
could understand that.
Well, we've had that happening in a few spots. I mean, a couple I was involved in because they fell under the guidance of it fell outside the right to farm bylaw that was going on. And I'm not sure this is the one you're talking about or not, but it without mentioning any names, I weighed in on this and I felt what was going on in that particular instance fell outside the right to farm bylaw. But that was only my opinion.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so I think we should move on from this because there's
Sure.
stuff with town council. We don't need to get in the
Yeah.
weeds on this too much, but I think it's helpful to think about. So this is something that Jane highlighted. See footnotes 20 to 21, where it states that kennels must be licensed by the Board of Selectmen. Consider where regulations for kennels should be zoning versus general bylaws. Jane, do you want to? I'll scroll down to the footnote 20. Jane, do you want to speak on this at all? Here.
Actually, I think we touched on that a little bit at the last meeting.
Yeah, we talked about kennels.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go back.
If I remember
Right.
correctly, what we talked about was the zoning is defining where they can be, and the Board of Selectmen is defining the
The
number
permitting.
of dogs and the permitting
Yeah.
and things like that.
Okay,
Yeah, I do, yeah. I do believe it needs to be included in the zoning, but certainly licensing goes to the Board of Selectmen. Well,
Okay. Moving on.
I mean, generally, if something like that comes up, I get a voucher asking the opinion of the board, so I'm not too concerned.
Moving on, Brendan had the idea, which I think is great, to add self-storage facility to our use table. I think that's a fabulous. Most towns tend to have a self-storage facility defined. I think seems like I see them popping up all over the place now.
Yeah, we just had a brand new one that we approved in Mendon.
So how do people feel about? So Brendan said it is allowed in GB and HB with a special permit. How do people feel about that?
Yeah, I know that's what it should be. I mean, that, you know, certainly in my considering why I would want special permit is you see some of these that are gigantic. And certainly the planning board would definitely not want that as a right. The planning board would want to be able to put that in the special permit.
Do we want to have a dimensional delineation?
I think I mean, we already require special permit on anything over 10,000 square feet.
Okay.
I don't think we really need to add more.
Okay. So something I brought up that we discussed on Thursday as well. So looking at 30, you have this definition of retail. Well, okay, so there's a few different things going on here. Essentially, like we need to merge a lot of these definitions. Regardless, they all have the same permissions, so it's kind of redundant anyway. But we have retail stores, indoor sales only, retail stores that may include fabrication and assembly, wholesale business and storage provided there is no manufacturing or processing of materials. And these all have the same, they're all allowed in GB and HB by right and not allowed in the residential districts. So I think it makes sense. I would merge 29 and 30 and just have retail stores. And then I think wholesale business and storage, I think I don't see how that differs from building materials sales room in a substantial way.
No, right? Yeah.
I mean, my understanding is most of those businesses at least have if you look at like a Home Depot or something, they have a wholesale component. So I would merge.
I think when we went through this first time, and I wish Leanna was on, but I think the key word in 31 was storage. You know, if we're gonna do something on the storage facility, we could probably just take storage out.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Well, except this 31 wholesale business and storage provided.
Yeah. So my thinking is that there's also an industrial there's also definitions around industrial. To me, that is the same as fabrication and assembly or manufacturing or processing of materials. And when we get to the industrial section, I would propose having heavy industrial, which traditionally we're looking at external pollutants from the industry, so noise, vibration, waste, and then light industrial, which has no negative effects on the abutters. And that should be where you look at the manufacturing side. That's just how I would approach it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
I think one area that some towns are trying to crack down on is the outside storage of bulk materials.
Yeah, without screening.
Yeah, or even just so the typical, contractor yard, right? Where there's piles of stuff. In Bellingham, they took it a little too far, I think, but they actually created a bulk storage permit issued by the Board of Selectmen, and they treated it almost like a liquor license. They only had so many bulk storage permits.
Really?
And once and it's like
So
meant to grandfather some.
This is something that I remember when we addressed this. Mendon has always been a town And it's kind of why, as soon as I got in, I set up this use table. Mendon has always been a town that we have storage, contract the yards
Mhm.
all over town.
Yeah.
Originally, there was really no zoning in Mendon until I got on the board. So people would just file for a special permit and no one would really squawk. So generally the special
Mhm.
permit was issued. So now we've got contract the yards all over the place. So we said, well, why don't we address it? And I think that's what we finally came down to. Let's put it just in GB and HB. And I mean, these ones that are grandfathered, obviously we can't do anything about, but we didn't want to pop it up all over the place,
Do we want to have would anyone, so some places have like a requirement that there's adequate screening for outdoor storage. Is that something we want to?
Yeah, and the board usually addresses that. I mean, can't tell you that everybody follows it, but once
That's supposed to
again,
be in the
once
site
again,
citing.
I'm not zoning compliance. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
yeah, the board usually addresses screening, but we should put it in. the
Yeah,
zoning.
just to have it in the, you can just say screening required or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go as far as pressing the issue on low impact development, but but that's really doesn't apply to those type of businesses. But
Mhm. So then, yeah, I think merge. So people are in agreement. We'll merge 29 and 30 and kind of look at light and heavy industrial. And then with 31 and 32, do we want to delete 32 and modify 31 to just be about like wholesale business? And then add self-storage. I would say like add a self-storage definition and a bulk storage definition. Like or like
Yeah.
commercial, like as commercial bulk storage definition separately. That would be, one would be like a self-storage facility, one would be like a contractor yard.
yeah, do we want to label it contract yards?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe no.
that'd be my opinion. Is
Yes, absolutely.
let's put it out there.
Okay.
Like I said, there's a dozen all over town, so
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Okay, yeah. So we'll let's get to footnote 7, which Jane highlighted. So this is on crafts. Jane, do you want to speak to this at all?
Let me see. So table A, line 34, was wondering if this line conflicts with line 34, where it says metals and woodworking, art and Photoshop, domestic work such as dressmaking, teaching of music, dramatics, arts and crafts, and academic pursuits. Can you go back to line 34 now?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So craft shop of an artist, potter, sculptor, wood carver, or similar craftsman. So it's not allowed in rural residential, and is that highway business?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, highway business.
so, okay, now I'm trying to remember which one number 7 applied to.
It was like metal
Residential,
working,
right?
dressmaking. It was essentially.
It's kind
Oh
of a
yeah, so that's
change.
home occupations. Is
Yeah.
7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what I would recommend with the I think this home occupation,
This just gets rid of the special permit for these
Yeah.
type of in-home
yeah, I
businesses.
think we discussed this on Thursday, and I think the consensus was to eliminate the professions you're defining under home occupation.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So the board, the planning board's gonna look at it anyways.
Right.
So they can address it.
Yeah, and like again, you don't want to be in a scenario like we were talking about if one of us was a freelance, planner, it would not be allowed under under the zoning bylaw to have like a home occupation.
Real
Yeah.
estate. Right? Yeah, real
For
estate's a
good
very broad
reason.
term,
Yeah.
but yeah, engineering.
Yeah, do
Yeah,
we want to
the
look back at 34
Mhm.
and do we want to
So I
allow
would
home
argue
occupation in rural residential or? I
like
mean, I
I
don't
guess
think it should be in the highway business. I don't think home occupation should be there, but
yeah.
there's already several home occupation businesses already there. So
The
I mean,
other
if
thing
we're
I'll
gonna do
say is
anything, if we're gonna do anything, I would make it planning board, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I'll say is again, like this to me, this feels like very similar to light industrial. I mean, I understand it's a different scale, but if you could have a light industrial application if you had you know, uh, if you had like a blacksmith or
Mhm.
whatever, like what's the distinction between a blacksmith, which I think I feel like there's this sort of aesthetic distinction that isn't super to distinguish between craft shop and light industrial. Right, like you could have a blacksmith. How is that different from like a metalworking studio? Different
Sculptor,
from
yeah.
if someone's doing like body work or something. Like there's which obviously falls under auto, but there's kind of a defining it as a craftsman, but distinguishing that from light industrial. I think you get into some kind of weird. If you're just talking about one person working, like maybe that's a home occupation, but once you could have more than one person working and
Why
still
wouldn't that
be
be allowed in highway business? Why is that restricted?
generally, we were trying to maintain the highway business district for,
Oh, I
vital
see.
commercial use, so we
Yeah.
kind of weren't looking for any additional home occupation, but I mean, if you guys feel, this is a democracy, you guys feel that we should change that, and I don't have an issue with it, I mean,
It's a different way of thinking about why it's restricted. That's all. I was thinking
yeah,
it should be allowed, but not thinking about preserving the minimum highway
Yeah,
business that's in town. I get that.
yeah, we're trying to preserve our commercial property as
So
best
much.
we can, yeah, as long we only got so little, but.
Let's make some more.
I might with this we might when we bring back some edits to
Well,
the
to be honest
to-
with you, that's why I developed the general business.
Mhm.
Not the general business, the general residential, which allows people to turn on Providence Road and Hartford Avenue West.
Mhm.
And Hartford Avenue East allows people to turn their homes and businesses as long as there is a major alteration to the property. That would
Mhm.
affect the neighbors. But that's why I developed that district so we could take other zones. Now, it's a walk before we run thing because as we know in Mendon, these things can get extremely difficult. So there may be, there may be room for expansion of a commercial district. Where that would be, I'm not sure. I mean, what the palette is. Like I said, a lot of these roads already have businesses on them.
Mhm.
Half of that West is a good example. We got Rogers Foundations
Yeah, right.
and before we had before he passed away, we had Bud and Son Auto Body. It's not unusual in Mendon if you drive the streets of Mendon to find businesses all over the place that would just allow it at one point in time.
Mhm.
Condoned, probably is the right word.
Yeah. Well, Mendon was a lot different back then too. So
So I think when it comes to this like discussion, I think we might look at how some other towns are dealing with the distinction between um like a craft shop and light industrial, because I think that that is something it's worth maybe being a little more precise with how we define this. Um,
It, like a craft shop could,
Yeah.
you could fit, if you're a sculptor, right? Like
Mhm.
it could be a business and professional office to some degree almost, or, you could fit in another one of these categories. You could slide either way, I think, almost.
right.
Like
Like an art,
37
like,
maybe, right?
or like an art studio where you taught classes. It's like seems like kind of a generic commercial use in some ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can try to maybe make this a little more elegant.
I don't think it's been a big issue per
Yeah,
se,
yeah, yeah.
It's not contested per se.
Yeah. So moving on, Jane highlighted this when we get to 40, restaurant or other established providing food and or beverages within the building. I think it makes sense to change that to on the premises,
Sure.
because you don't want to, I don't think it makes sense to be restricting outdoor dining like this
No, that
in
makes sense.
zoning.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
All right.
We actually had that come up once, so dealt with that. That's a good change, actually.
Moving on. So looking at hotels, so there's, if I remember, is there or is there not a bread and breakfast definition?
I thought there was.
Yeah, there is under, okay, so there is
Yeah.
under accessory uses for residential. We discussed this a little bit on Thursday. Jane, do you remember if we came to had any more complex thoughts on this?
I don't have notes regarding
Okay.
that part. Sorry.
So that seems fine. I think in the definition section, we'll just want to be pretty clear about what makes what when a bed and breakfast turns into a hotel. Um,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and yeah, because again, people sometimes get in the weeds with hotel, motel. I don't think that's super worthwhile in most cases.
No.
The other thing, looking at medical center, I think this is kind of an odd definition. It's an incomplete statement. So it says medical center for medical, dental, or clinical. I don't know what a medical center for clinical is. Um, so, and I don't know what distinguishes this from a hospital. So do we want to just make the medical center medical offices, medical facilities, and then rely on the 10,000 square foot
Yeah.
portion to differentiate that from a hospital?
Medical
Certainly.
offices.
Yeah, yeah, medical offices are,
To include urgent care type stuff, or
Yeah, I would say medical facilities.
okay.
Just to because
Yeah.
that's kind of broad.
Yeah.
Do we define medical facilities somewhere at some point?
We should in the definitions.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, so again, coming back to late
you may want to note that there, Gabe, so we don't forget.
medical I did. All right, right here.
Set up a decision. I mean, a definition.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Moving on to, again, back to the light industrial discussion. So I would rework this to from light manufacturing or light assembly facility, which may include the indoor display and sales of products manufactured or assembled on the premise. I would just change that to light industrial. And then I can pull a definition for light and then make a heavy industrial definition where it's prohibited in all districts. But again, the distinction traditionally is that light industrial has no deleterious effect on the abutters, so you're not putting off smells or vibrations or anything like that.
Yeah.
All right. I think just want to make sure. I think this is the last one. I think we might want to have, I don't know how we would break this down, but I think with this indoor commercial entertainment definition, we might want to get a little more nuanced in what we're talking about. Because I think you have stuff like I think in a lot of towns, something like a small movie theater or like a black box theater would probably be more welcome than a bowling alley. And I think there's kind of a scale. I don't know how people feel about this, but either don't define indoor commercial entertainment or make it a little more nuanced. But
I would rather not, let's not define the uses.
yeah,
Allow the planning board to deal with that.
okay.
Where do we address, the pickleball type facility? Is that
Those
Outdoor
indoor.
regulation. Oh,
Probably
no,
not.
those indoor.
Number 64, right? Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, it says on municipal land. Does that apply to all those
Yeah.
items?
Mm.
The way it's worded, it's up for debate, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The way it's
Yeah, you might
punctuated.
want to take out the on municipal land, but.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're requiring planning board special permits, so.
Yeah.
I would just take on municipal land.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that maximum
I would,
flexibility.
to be honest with you, I don't think we're gonna see a lot of action on playing fields. In the
Would this
town,
be,
in the town of Mendon, that's not on municipal land.
Yeah.
I would
So,
I would change both of these. I would change this 60 to just indoor commercial entertainment, and I would change 64 to outdoor,
okay.
like outdoor
Yes.
recreation or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
And that'll catch everything.
Yeah.
The one
No
thing.
pun intended.
Yeah, the one thing I am concerned about, and there's quite a few of them in this town, is, I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna bitch and complain to anybody, but, a lot of people have basketball courts,
Mhm.
swimming pools. If we take out on municipal land, you're gonna send everybody who puts a swimming pool into the planning board?
Should we
Yeah.
specify
Great point.
commercial?
Yeah, I would.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Public,
No,
public use,
private.
private use?
Well,
because I'll tell you what, I have a basketball
Either.
court at my backyard.
How about
I don't-
how
Because
about
if it's private
outdoor?
use, then
or-
that's personal, right?
yeah, how about outdoor or how about commercial or municipal outdoor recreation?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, that's fine.
So indoor, pickleball, tennis, whatever, is that entertainment? 60?
I'd say indoor commercial entertainment.
Yeah, that would fall under indoor commercial entertainment, yeah. I mean,
'Cause-
soccer field, I mean, they're building everything indoors now.
Yeah. Feels
Yeah, and I
like
think
that.
again, it's similar to light and heavy industrial, where the issue is how the abutters feel about it, and
Yeah.
like I know pickleball is really
I
controversial.
actually did get asked by someone in town, about building a indoor soccer facility.
Mhm.
And of course, the biggest challenge would be, and I basically told them this, I didn't know whether men had the palate for it, would be the height. They want,
Mm.
like 60-foot height.
Oh, wow, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going from, Mendon's maximum is what, 25 or 35, one of them. And, we're gonna go to 60. Ouch.
That's.
I do not want to be, I don't not want to be managing that, special permit.
So Yeah, so I think some sort of, again, just getting back to it, like I think we're looking at what has a bad external effect on residents. Most of the complaints with stuff like pickleball or if you had a basketball court or tennis court, it would be noise from the facility on neighbors. If it's indoors, I think hopefully that
Yeah,
problem is solved.
I think we got it right. I mean,
Okay.
the planning board for everything. We'll, as long as we have a quality planning board,
Mhm.
which hasn't always happened in Mendon, but
We'll just put in the zoning bylaws. The
yeah,
planning board has to be good, and then
yeah, exactly.
they have to follow
Exactly.
that. It's the
Well,
law.
that's why we have adult entertainment in Mendon is because
Yeah.
the prior planning board wasn't so good. Should never happen.
Moving on. So we have 5 minutes left. But I think we got through a good chunk of this today. We still have a couple more. Jane mentioned combining 72 and 73, just making it drive-through
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah, restaurants, yeah, just drive-through businesses.
Bank, restaurant, not that different.
No.
And then at on our conversation on Thursday, we proposed deleting the reference to earth removal in the bylaws since it is just in the town bylaws.
Yeah, I agree with that. We don't get that request much. It really doesn't come under the guidance of the planning. So, however, the BOS wants to deal with it, leave it up to them.
I would
Okay.
question about this, coming at it from
Mhm.
the other side. How would an applicant know to contact the BOS if it's not referenced here?
It's in the general bylaw.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just-
a lot of times they don't look at those. I understand what Brendan's saying.
yeah, that's all I was saying.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like what most happens in this community, it's if the neighbors complain.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, keep it in as a redundancy or a reference, if you will.
And I
Yeah,
I have
you know
no
what?
strong
It might
feelings
make
either way.
them, yeah, at least it's in the zoning bylaw, force them to look at the general bylaw.
Yep.
Cool. So to keep
I
with
would,
deleting it.
I would just add one thing. I would clarify Mendon bylaws to Mendon general bylaw,
Okay.
just so they, because believe me, I have people show up in front of the planning board. Oh, I didn't need to, well, can you read? Jeepers. Rick knows I don't hold back too much, but
No. Can you read?
All right.
is that it?
I think that's it for tonight.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna have an opportunity to clear these up so we can really, I'd like to get this section accomplished in the next
Yeah.
meeting or two. So
Yeah, I
if
think we can
if you
bring
can find
back.
in the ones you're gonna find verbiage on
Yeah.
from other towns. I
Yeah.
mean, to be honest with you, I'll be truthfully honest with you. I'm the best plagiarist there is. 90% of the bylaws that we now have came from other communities.
Oh yeah, we do that. No
And
no shame in that.
No,
it's-
no, no,
If
you
the
know
AG
what?
approves, the AG approves.
Yeah, when I showed up, when I took over the planning board, the planning book was 9 pages. It was ridiculous. The planning board really had no way to defend itself. So
Mhm.
that's when I started writing these bylaws, and I don't know how big it is now, but it's a lot bigger than it was then.
Cool. Well, I think that is a good place to leave it for tonight.
Yeah,
We can the staff will be meeting sometime next week, and we can maybe let's try to meet earlier in the week if we can. Like Monday or Tuesday, and then we can give ourselves
when do
maybe
you guys? Yeah, when do you guys meet?
it depends on our schedule. It's usually just we'll meet the week after this meeting so that
Yeah.
we can coordinate things. But we can give ourselves some homework ahead of the next meeting, if we meet
Yeah.
earlier next week.
Not that I want to be part of it, because I am generally, when I'm involved in these committees, I get enough input at the planning board level. I try to not put my finger on the pulse of everything. So I try to that's why I let you guys, I'll give you my opinion on how I feel as the legality from the planning board perspective, but whatever we want to do, we do as a committee.
Mhm.
So, but, all right, I guess then all we need is a motion.
Do we want to plan the date of the next meeting?
Oh, good idea.
Okay,
2 weeks from now.
February 4th?
That works for me.
Okay.
Works for me.
Lonnie, you gonna handle getting that out?
Yeah, what time? 6 o'clock?
6
Mhm.
o'clock, unless somebody wants to change it, but I like 6 o'clock. Get it
No,
over.
six
Yeah,
is perfect.
Good, good.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Need a motion then.
Oh, wait a minute.
Motion
we
to
need a
adjourn.
motion.
We were not really officially meeting. I mean, we
Oh,
don't have
yeah,
a
we're
quorum.
not.
All
So we don't
Oh,
need
okay,
to
right.
adjourn.
right.
All right,
fair
guys.
enough.
Agree
Good
to
night.
adjourn.
All right.
See you in
Bye-bye.
2 weeks.
See ya. Bye.